Hey everyone, Gregor Arturo here. So I wanted to make this video for a while to talk about Nikola Tesla, at least his name, and how it relates to the human subconscious. And so I've been in the free energy field over unity movement for about 8 years, originally starting with vortex-based mathematics, a field pioneered by Marco Rodin. And about 6 years ago, I really started to get into Nikola Tesla's work, especially around the Wardenclyffe system. And so for those who have met me in person or know me, I tend to talk about it a lot in person, and it comes up in conversations all the time. And so in 6 years, I've got to observe, you could say, the human subconscious, at least from my perception, of how society and the norm relate to Nikola Tesla and his work. And so in the last couple of years, I've seen a dramatic shift in his name with the prominence of Tesla Motors. And many people think it's a positive thing, but in some ways it's been negative, because what I've seen in the last several years is I've seen the word Tesla be replaced by someone who is a man by a company, a car. Someone who is real, someone who is tangible, to something that is fictional and non-existent, because that's what a corporation is. And in essence, his name has been hijacked. And so a great example is an article just posted today. And this happens on the Tesla channels on YouTube all the time. Is we got Gigafactory, Tesla's giant battery factory, and on the article, like, the first thing it says, and the thing is, a lot of people this isn't their intent, it's just the way it's affecting human subconscious. It says, it seems that Tesla's dreams are coming true. Both the military and public sectors seem to profit from Tesla's ingenuity and ideas. But the first person to comment on this, you got Rem and myself added, never would Tesla ever want this. And that's the truth. And so Nikola Tesla was about free energy. He was about liberating energy for the public. He was very altruistic. And so in 1899 with Colorado Springs, he developed a type of atmospheric energy system, and it was working. It was fully working. There's other talks on my channel about that, and more to come, elaborating on such a system. And he went to New York City, or Long Island, to build a industrial-sized version to provide power to the entire New York metropolitan area that was also wireless at the same time and can provide information. Being J.P. Morgan was funding the project, and he had the largest stake in Anaconda Copper, when he found out what Tesla was really doing with the project, and as far as I've been able to see in the literature, J.P. Morgan was only aware of the wireless transfer of power, not the generation of power itself. He thought it was just a giant radio telecommunications system. He pulled the whole project, and the project was shut down, because how that would have affected the use of copper in this country. And so the thing is, with the Tesla battery, a lot of people are like, oh, Tesla battery, this is amazing. The battery is still a limitation on the system. It still requires you to charge the system, sometimes even with fossil fuels, if not solar or wind. And you're still attached to a limitation. You're still attached to a scarcity within the system. Tesla was about liberating scarcity from the construct of our minds so we can live with ease. And so the interesting thing that has happened is what Tesla has stood for with his work. And over 300 patents, I think it's nearing 400, his legacy has been buried, essentially. There's still notions that Marconi invented the radio, even though U.S. Supreme Court, just 6 months after his death, proved it was actually Tesla. And that his name, his history, his legacy has been hijacked in history. And for me, from being a researcher, it does cause a little bit of angst. And that, who is Elon Musk? What is he really representing? Because one of the things I feel that has happened is, as Nikola Tesla started to make a return into the human psyche, into our human consciousness, at least at more mainstream in some ways after the turn of the century, that when Tesla Motors came out, it deterred that resurgence of who he was, in that the motor, the AC polyphase motor in the Tesla, is his first patent. It's his, you could say it was his baby. It was what took off everything. But he created so much afterwards. He advanced it so much farther. His ideas go across the roof. There's the relation of what happened with the Model T and Ford, and some will call this an internet myth, but it's really interesting when you study the magneto on a Model T, and that Ford designed it so no matter what, it was going to come to market. It could run on oil, it could run on biofuel from hemp, and it could run on Tesla's free energy. Which you could go into all these dynamics of neutrino radiation and longitudinal, scalar, linear waves, rays of light. There's so many ways to describe this, and it's been documented throughout times as chi and orgone by William Reich's research, but it's all studying the same thing of what is the ether? What is this unpolarized ray of light? And how can it be utilized to self-organize energy within a system? And anyways, Tesla sort of put it in the Model T in a beautiful intrinsic way to keep the Model T moving. The internet myth goes basically that if you have two cowbells and cowbell magnets, I think that's what they're called, the U magnets, and you stick them in a specific point in the Model T, you'll get the magneto spinning perpetually. There's 4 to 6 of those magnetos stacked that's used at Coral Castle that allowed Edward Lee Skellnan to succeed at what he was doing in terms of levitating stone, pretty much neutralizing the weight, the mass of the stone, so he could move massive pieces of limestone into place by himself as he was only 5 feet tall, and using just pulleys to move them as they were all pretty much weightless. And yes, this is going to be a hypothetical conjecture, but when I'm coming full circle in terms of, well, I've read this and I've seen this, what I've seen with my own eyes or in my own ears is I've watched the human psyche and the consciousness shift around the name Tesla. And if you think at in the greatest of ironies, is Tesla was a man and it's been replaced by a company. And the company is non-existent, it's fictional. And so you've seen that shift from something real to something fictional. Someone who is about abundance to something that is still based on scarcity. Okay? Yes, it doesn't put out fossil fuels, even though yes, charging can still result in fossil fuels, but you still have to charge it. You are still limited by scarcity. And all of capitalism is based on scarcity. And so it is the Tesla's technologies, many other technologies from great people such as Walter Russell, Victor Schauberger, Wilhelm Reich, Townsend H. Brown. There's Dan Winters, Tom Bearden, Stanley Myers, Paul Pantone, John Keeley. I mean, I can go on of all these great scientists who have been buried. Some of them have been killed, threatened, harassed. I've had friends harassed. I've had friends' children's been kidnapped, and that it's a horrific scene. But outside the fear, in people like myself, there is hope. There is passion for this change, and it can go in such beautiful ways. And so when you think Tesla, think of the man. Don't think of the car. Think of the man, because he is what made this world great. Even though so much of his technologies have been buried, his technologies have been the paradigm for now. Because even within the human psyche and the human subconscious, when people think of an intellectual, they think of Albert Einstein. But when Albert Einstein was interviewed by a journalist one time, the journalist asked him, how does it feel to be the most intelligent man on the planet? And Einstein replied, I don't know. You're going to have to ask Nikola Tesla. And so let's try to rewrite the human psyche with actually the truth of our reality and bring clarity to this emerging science that interweaves consciousness and perception to really understand what is our reality? What is our universe composed of? And as this evolution of consciousness moves forward, so does that reflect in all aspects of our society, cultural, economical, scientific. And so give praise to the man and follow in his footsteps, because he knew that there's a famous quote that also of his that I can't remember verbatim, but that his legacy wasn't now. His legacy was the future, and that he owned the future. And man, thank you, Tesla. Thank you so much. You've done wonderful things for this world. Blessings and namaste.